So in this discussion, we want to look at, the 2025. Specifically, I'm going to revise the whole question paper. Watch out for the videos in my playlist for 2025, but I'm looking at question number 8. This is a question that came under organic chemistry. So it was saying the diagram shows some reactions of butanoic acid. So this is butanoic acid that they have. Remember butanoic acid, many elephants pass by public. So that's carbon number 1, 2 carbon, 1 carbon, 3 carbon, 4 carbon, 5 carbon. So propanoic acid in this, butanoic acid has got 4 carbon atom, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's what you have. And you can see this functional group called the carboxyl. This is what we call the carboxyl functional group. So when this acid react with sodium, it produces gas A and a salt B. Remember, acids, organic acid undergo the same reactions as the acid, the inorganic acid you looked at under acid bases and salt. So therefore, when it reacts with sodium, it will produce a salt that we simply call as being sodium ethanoate. So the acid changes to no yet. So it is simply going to be sodium ether. So it is going to be sodium ethanoate. So that noic will change to noate. So sodium ethanoate. Then the gas, remember when an acid reacts with the metal, it produces a salt, and what other thing? It is a gas called hydrogen gas. So when this acid reacts with a sodium carbonate, remember when an acid reacts with a metal carbonate, three things are going to be produced. So you expect a salt. So the same salt, which is the same B, sodium ethanoate, but it is also going to produce gas C, which is simply carbon dioxide, because that's a carbonate, so it will produce CO2. Then the liquid that will be produced in the process is actually water, which is H2O. So that's what they wanted you to do there. Then again, when this acid is heated with methanol, when an organic acid react with an alcohol, it produces what we call a carboxylic acid. Remember liquid D, we have identified it is H2O. So this organic acid they are talking about is what we simply call as being an ester. So it is simply an ester, but that's not the name, because you are using methanol. It is going to be methyl, methyl butanoate. Yeah, so methyl butanoate. So that's what we are going to look at. So remember, sorry, I've been saying it, this is actually butanoic acid. So this is supposed to be sodium butanoate. So this is sodium butanoate. That's the name of the salt there. Right, so let's try to answer now this question there. You see it says A, B, C and D are different substances. Identify by name A, B, C and D. So A, like I said, is simply hydrogen. So that is hydrogen gas. So they want you to identify the substance by name. Remember, not the formula, but they want you by name. Then B, in this case, is simply sodium butanoate. So sorry, sodium butanoate, not as I said earlier on ethanoate. This is butanoic acid, so that would be butanoate. Then C is representing a gas we are calling as being carbon dioxide. So that is carbon dioxide or dioxide. Then D is a liquid which we are calling as being water. And this is what they wanted you to do in this exam. Then it says name and draw the displayed structure of E. So they want you to, what is the displayed structure of E? So the name is simply methyl butanoate. Now the way when you are naming, in this case, when you are naming an ester, it follows the name. The first part is always an alcohol followed by the acid. So the name of the alcohol, for example, because we are using methanol, you drop we were using methanol. So you drop, in this case, all this, and the name changes to methyl. It becomes a methyl group. Then the acid butanoic, because we're using butanoic acid, it becomes butanoate. So that's why it's methyl butanoate. So the name of the ester follows alcohol plus the acid. So the structure here, when you look at it, because when you look at methanoic acid, if you still remember, the general formula for this homologous series is simply CN, then H2N plus 1, then OH. Methanoic acid, there's only one carbon atom, meaning when N is 1, so it will be CH, 2 times 1 is 2 plus 1, 3, then OH. So that is the formula for methanoic acid that we are having there. So now this and that, when they react, the whole idea is that the OH, what is going to happen is that in this reaction, when it actually takes place, so what you're going to find is that the OH from the alcohol and the hydrogen will react to produce water, and the remaining molecule will join. So what I would do is that I'll write that indicating the number of carbon atoms that are there, which is 4. So this is what is going to have. So there will be an oxygen there. Then this that has remained will actually, join. Let me use I wish I had a different marker, a different pen. So this carbon and the 3 hydrogen will come in that direction there. So this will come in that direction. Then you can attach the hydrogens that are there. Please watch out my video series if you want to understand more on organic acid, but this was the structure that they wanted. In fact, may I tell you, this structure, whenever you see it, this is what we call has been an ester linkage. And compounds that are going to be having such a linkage, those are what we simply call as being polyesters. So we call them polyesters. If you have done polymers, then you'll be in a position to know what I'm talking about there. So please remember that we are using butanoic acid. So the name of the salt is sodium butanoate. Thank you so much for watching. If you loved the video, please, you can hit that like button and also share. Subscribe to our channel so that we may continue to produce more of these videos. Watch out for some other questions.